What's up, guys? It's Parrish. When it comes to those that are looking to buy properties or those who haven't thought about buying property yet, you may occasionally hear people in the real estate game talk about generational wealth. If you buy a property, you obtain generational wealth, but you may not exactly know exactly how to obtain generational wealth or why you can get generational wealth in real estate. So, in this video, I just want to explain exactly what generational wealth is pertaining to real estate, which is really equity. So, I'm going to be explaining equity, exactly what equity is, why it's important, and hope to give you some better information on that. So when you're looking to buy property, you'll be able to exactly understand a lot more of how that can actually make your future much more secured because you're having some equity in that property. So if you stay tuned, we'll get right to the video. Now, as I said, generation of wealth is directly connected to equity. When you hear agents speak of generational wealth and that if to get you into buying a property, now you're going to be able to understand exactly what generational wealth is and why does it pertain to equity. Equity is defined as the investment of a home ownership has into their property. There's a certain mathematical equation that you want to understand so you'll be able to calculate your equity potentially that when you buy your property. The equation for equity is that you want to take the market value of the property and you want to subtract it from any mortgages or liens that you have on the property. And then whatever is left over is the equity that you have into the home. Now, let me just give an example of equity. Let's say a property that you recently bought for $240,000 is now worth $250,000. The difference between $250,000 and $240,000 is $10,000. Now, you don't get all the entire $10,000. You still got to pay your real estate commissions. You still got to pay other fees. But it's important to understand that you'll be able to obtain what's ever left over from that transaction if you were to sell that property. And that's why it's important to understand that you can leverage the more equity that you build to be able to do other different things, to be able to refinance, to buy new repairs for a new property, or to be able to fix the property up. It's just important to understand that property values increase over time and that it tends to be different from when you once paid it for. So if you were to sell that property, that equity that you get would be the difference between what you bought it for and what you sold it for. It's so important to understand. Now, why is equity so important for generational wealth? Well, because you want to be able to build up as much equity as you can within that home. So when you sell it, you'll be able to maximize as much profits as you can. Markets change, but property values do increase over time. So you want to be able to maximize as much as you can for when you sell that property, whether it's going to be a long-term sale or a short-term sale. You want to just understand exactly how long you want to have that property for and what is the trajectory of how much equity that can be built within that property. Now, there are two ways in which equity could be increased in the home that you potentially buy. The first way is that if you were to pay down your mortgage, so you buy a property that's worth $240,000 and you pay that mortgage down, over time, the price that you paid that property for is going to decrease because you're paying those mortgage payments. You're paying the mortgage payments, so the money that you owe is decreasing. So when you sell that property, it's going to be difference between from when you bought it and then when you sold it, because that time that you was paying off that mortgage has been decreasing the amount that you actually owe for that property. And that is one way you can increase your equity in that property. Now, the second way of how to attain generational wealth, which is equity in a home, is that the market value of a property increases over time. These past couple of years have been a short supply of homes. So the ones that buyers who have been able to afford to be able to buy property have been buying properties at much higher prices. And as a result, has been increasing other properties for much higher prices. So if you were to buy a property from a few years ago, the property value of that is now much more higher. That is the second way of being able to obtain equity, because the market value of your property is just increasing so much higher than when you bought it for. So if you were to sell it, you'll be able to sell it for a much more higher price than what you bought it for. And then that difference is the equity that you'll be able to use once you pay off the commission fees and any other fees that you got to do. And then you'll be able to attain that, and that'll be some wealth that you were able to get from that selling of that property. So it's just important to understand that second way. Now, the last thing I want to mention is that it's important to understand that there's a cycle when it comes to the market. It goes up and down, the economy changes. So there's a chance that equity can decrease. The property value of your property can decrease depending on various reasons, whether it be the economy or certain locations changes. that's one way your equity can decrease. So it's important to be aware that you may have bought a property for such a high price and you may expect it to go higher than that, but there's a chance that it could go lower than that. So when you're able to sell that property, you may not get exactly as much as you thought you was going to be able to get. So it's important to understand that although equity can increase and generational wealth can be attained from real estate, you can also lose out on money because the market's changed and what your equity that you thought you was going to increase with, because of the market value of your property is decreasing, you may not get as much equity as you thought you would. So it's just important to understand. Thank you for listening. Hope this video gave you a better understanding on exactly equity and exactly what it pertains to when it comes to generational wealth. I do want to note though, I know I did say that equity could potentially go down. It can also go up. The economy does change, so it may decrease for a while, but it may go up later on. You just want to make sure that when you buy a property, you're in it for the long term. You want to hold on to that property. You want to have it for a good amount of years, because by having it for a good amount of years, you'll be able to weather the storm of a low market and your property decreasing and then later on increasing. So when you sell it at the right time, because you held on for so long, you'll be able to sell it for a much higher amount from once you buy it from, because you held on to it. So it's just important to understand. And if you have any more questions, just reach out to me. Peace.